Hey everyone, today's video gear review on some of the items I brought on a loan. I'm going to tell you right now, this will be an imperfect video. Well, just like all the other videos that I've done. I just have not had much time. So it is Friday morning before the sun is up, and I have already put in over 80 hours this week. It's been crazy. I've been working 7 days a week so that I can take some time off, and I am going on a fly fishing trip, leaving in a couple days. So I've been working crazy hours to allow me to be able to take that time off. But I am doing everything I can to get videos out to you every Friday at least. Tomorrow I will be putting together something to drop next Friday while I am still out in Wyoming. So we'll jump into it. This is not comprehensive. This is not everything that I brought on a loan. And there's some things that's just kind of, a little bit boring. So fish hooks and fish line, I'm not going to get into specifics of what I brought. I will tell you that that was a torturous decision, I think, for all of us. I think we all spent hours sitting down deciding what 25 hooks we want to take. Snare wire, stuff like that. You don't need to hear about that. So I'm going to go over a few of the things that I yanked out of our gear closet to talk about. So start with the boring stuff first, but one of the most important, which is sleeping bag. I think a lot of we had something like 3 weeks notice we were going, that we'd been chosen going on the show. And if I still lived in Alaska, I'd have a lot of this cold weather gear, but I've lived in Tennessee now for over 14 years, and I don't have a cold weather sleeping bag. I've got like a 20-degree sleeping bag, I think is the coldest one I've got here now. So I ended up with this Marmot, and of course a 40 below sleeping bag is going to be super expensive no matter what brand. A lot of this stuff really came down to what could I get in time in less than 3 weeks notice. This is a ridiculously warm sleeping bag. Of course, I still haven't had a chance to test it out that cold. My departure on a loan was before it got real cold. But I will tell you that I've never zipped this sleeping bag up because it is so hot if it's above 0 degrees that you don't need to zip it up. This is one of the spendy items of bringing out there. This is something like $850 sleeping bag. Feels great. I'm impressed. I mean, obviously it's huge, but it compresses down in a compression bag. It compresses down very small, so that's an impressive thing. I keep it in the stuff sack, of course, to keep the down intact. I will say my big complaint with this is the guard or lack thereof on the zipper. For an $850 sleeping bag, it should have a better zipper guard so it doesn't get jammed up on the fabric when you're trying to zip it up. So that's my complaint. For you spend $850, they should have something better to protect the zipper. All right, get that out of here. The more boring stuff. Clothes. I have gotten a number of questions on the bibs that I wore and also the pants that I wore. Before I get into those, I will show you something that, again, it never got cold enough when I was there for me to use, but I had them, and I'm going to be honest, what I used them for was these were on my bed to make a nice soft padding. Some good old Carhartt bibs. These are my go-to in Alaska. When I lived in Alaska, these things are fantastic. Filson parka. This is a really nice down parka. Again, I slept on it, so I really haven't had a chance to use it. I am a bit of a gear hoarder, So being in Tennessee, I could just go ahead and resell these online, but I'm not going to because you never know when I'm going to head back up to Alaska or something. So I will hold on to these. Now, the bibs that everyone saw in the photo shoots, these are also Filson wool bibs. And I love these things. Again, not a lot of times to use them in Tennessee. Good for sitting in the deer stand when it's cold. These are expensive. I think these are like $350, but the quality is amazing. The wool is amazing. And I haven't had to use any of the customer service or the warranty, but everyone says that the Filson warranty is phenomenal. You know, these lose their stretch, send them back, they'll stitch some new ones on. Even if you do some damage that's your fault, I've heard that you can send it in and they will repair it very reasonably. So these are awesome. Also Filson, my double tin pants. These are waxed canvas pants. Most of the footage that you saw on Alone, I was wearing these. These are super durable. They are awesome. I did stab myself with my saw when I was out there, and the teeth went into the fabric here. However, it didn't rip, it didn't continue to fray. That was it. It stopped right there. These are, I think, something like $225 for these pants, but these are amazing. Biggest problem I had was when I ordered them, they were out of any kind of size that was good for me. I had to get 38s. They were either going to be too small or way too big. So these are definitely huge on me. Now, they're really designed to be worn with suspenders. They're designed to be worn large, suspenders hanging down. However, that's one of the items that it's not on our clothing list. We can bring a belt, but not suspenders. So I had a belt. I brought an extra long belt, and my plan was if I needed to, I could slice the leather in half lengthwise and make some suspenders for these, but I never did. I just cinched the belt down tight. Of course, these buttons for the suspenders kind of dug into my hips when I had the belt cranked down, but not too bad. These pants are amazing, though. I love them. Whew. All right, what's next? Bow. Let's talk about bow. I'm not an archer. To be honest, I had not really done much archery since I was a teenager. And then when I started considering applying for the show back season 6, I figured if I'm going to apply to get on the show, I better step up my game. I got a Samick Sage. It's a cheap bow, but generally good reviews on those. Problem I had was it's a 62 inch, I think, and I've got a pretty long draw. I think I'm about 30 and a half, 30 and 3/4 inch draw, and I was really feeling like I was hitting a wall when I was getting to full draw. So I got this Southwest Archery Spider XL. It's a 64 inch, and again, it's a budget bow, but I'm not going to spend money on a super expensive bow if it's not going to, increase, it's not going to make up for my lack of skill. I am proficient enough to confidently take game, but it's not my thing. It's not my forte. Finish on this thing is great. No problems with it. It's been good. But I also, like I said, I'm not an archery nerd, so I don't really know what it's like to have a super nice bow. Now, this is a takedown, so it's going to be a little bit heavier. I got to play around with some other people's bows that were not takedowns, and, so much lighter. But I was traveling internationally. I needed something I could break down, put in a case. It was just so much easier. So that's my bow. Oh, It's a 50-pound. That's one of the hard things. You know, when you're out there, if you're going to be out there for any length of time, you're going to get weaker. It's going to be harder to draw back. However, you still need to have something that's sufficient for large game if you're allowed to. Generally, a requirement is about 45 pounds for deer. I brought a 50-pound in hopes that we were going to be allowed to take bear. And of course, we were not allowed to take bear. So it was a real hard decision about what kind of weight to bring. But I went with a 50. So traditional 400 gold tip arrows. Again, I do not have the expertise to recommend one thing over another, but that's what I brought for arrows. Unfortunately, when I ordered these, I ordered some new arrows to go out there on the show, and the only thing that Three Rivers had in stock at the time was white fletchings, and that pink is actually Kool-Aid. I use Kool-Aid to dye the feathers on these. So while I'm talking about the bow and the archery equipment, I'm going to show you my bowstring. Some of you know it was not put on the show, but I have talked about it. My bowstring was chewed on day 6. I woke up to this. But it didn't get showed because, you know, Matt's got chewed all the way through, and it was a much more dramatic scene. I was waking up and tired and just said a few cuss words about my bowstring being chewed through. But the mice got into my fur silencer. They chewed through completely through 9 of the 16 strands, and then they gnawed up most of the rest. So this was about ready to break. But yeah, that was lovely. On to, let's see, cooking pot. I had a few people ask about what pot I brought. This is a zebra pot. Unfortunately, what I have found out is that in an effort to be complete cheapskates, they have replaced these wire lid latches with plastic. I have no idea why anybody would do that, because that's just going to melt on the fire. So I don't know what would be my choice if I had to get something at this point. This comes with this inside. Of course, I could not bring that on the show. I could only bring the pot. It's decent, reasonably heavy stainless steel. I think it's the right balance of heavy enough to be durable and not cheap, but also light enough it's not too crazy to pack around. It's a great pot in my opinion, and these wire bales are excellent. When I was on the show, I used this to collect berries. I used it when I went hiking up the top of my property. I filled this with water and just did my best to carry it with me to not lose any water. But I really enjoy this pot. Silky Katana Boy. This is pretty much a staple on the show. I really knew about this simply from looking at gear that people had brought on alone in previous seasons. And I was a little hesitant to drop 200 and I don't remember what this was, 225, 250 or whatever. It's a lot of money for a handsaw, but this thing is phenomenal. It is a beast. And I am so glad that I went with this size of a saw, because I was having to cut down Widowmakers that were, you know, that big around, and just some of them were almost as big around as this blade is long. So I was so glad I had this big saw. This is ridiculously sharp. These are the teeth that went through my Filson pants and into my shin and into the bone. I was so glad I didn't get it infected while I was out there. While I was building the cabin, I was limbing a log. It slipped, went right into my shin. I felt like a complete idiot. But this thing's amazing. Great saw. It is worth the money for sure. Expensive, but I would definitely choose this again. Absolutely. Axe. I brought a Holtzbrook, and it's a good axe. You know, it's decent. I was a little concerned with their brand stamping and everything. It is very deep into that. So I was a little bit concerned about the longevity of this. You know, I got this a year or two ago, well before I went on the show, but it was replacing a cheaper axe I had. It's decent. I think this is $150 axe or something. I honestly wish that I could find an old school American axe, something like what my father had when I was growing up. The steel on those was amazing. They held a great edge. You could get them razor sharp. They would hold an edge. The right balance of durability, hardness, and still sharpenability was fantastic. This is decent. I'm not blown away by it. It's not incredible, but it is decent. One of the things that I was concerned about when I bought this axe, I purchased it online, of course, and I really like being able to pick out an axe handle or even a wooden hammer handle when I buy framing hammers. I like being able to see the grain of wood in person. So I was concerned about spending 150 bucks or whatever on an axe and having it mailed to me, because sometimes the grain can run out on the handle and you know it's going to break. This, though, is a really great great grain on the wood. It's good. So I have confidence that this axe handle is going to last a long time. It's mounted very well, super solid. So it's got that going for it. Now, multi-tool. I am not a multi-tool user. You know, I'm a carpenter by trade, and I like having the right tool for everything. So day-to-day basis, I don't generally have a multi-tool, and even camping, I'm a knife guy all the way. However, I did choose to bring snare wire, and I needed something to cut that snare wire with. So I did bring a multi-tool, and I got a Leatherman Super Tool 300. The reason being is if I was going to give up a knife, I wanted a multi-tool that was going to have the longest knife possible, the best knife possible. A lot of nights staying up till 2 a.m. researching. I ordered this direct from Leatherman, and I am not impressed. The blade is good. It's a very sharp blade. It's probably the best blade I've had on a multi-tool as far as sharpness. Cutting up that bull trout, it did great for a blade this size. However, it does this a lot. Instead of opening up the pliers when you have it locked, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I got a nick in. It has replaceable cutter teeth, but I got a nick in that simply cutting snare wire. I don't know why. It was just a soft spot in the teeth or something, or a hard spot in the snare wire. Didn't do it the rest of the time, but I got a nick in it right away. The other thing that was killing me about these is one side of these. I can't remember which one it was. This side, I guess it's the blade side. The screw that holds all the different accessories in there started loosening day 3 when I was out there. And it would loosen up throughout the day, and I'd try and tighten it down, and it would loosen up just wearing it in my pocket or in the pouch. Constantly loosening up, because apparently when you spend $100+ for a multi-tool, it is too much to put a drop of Loctite on this. So overall, not super impressed with this multi-tool. It's loose in the wrong places. It's tight in the wrong places. You know, I want these handles to be tight, and they never were. And I want the pliers to be loose so they work, and they never were. So I was not very impressed with this. Leatherman, screw you. Now, the one thing that I wish I could have brought, but I didn't bring, I'm going to show you because it's super cool. No, it's not my SIG 400. It's not my Springfield Hellcat either, but it's so cool. 13 rounds in that little baby. All right, that would have been cool to take. This knife, my wife got me this Hella Silvsteinen, or however you pronounce it. I really wanted to take this knife. I am a knife guy through and through. I love knives. And it was a torturous decision to bring that garbage Leatherman over this knife, but I had to have something to cut snare wire with. This blade is phenomenal. Thick enough to baton, chop through wood, but ridiculously sharp. This is a 3-layer, I can't remember the specifics right now. It's stainless laminated with a different steel in the middle for the blade edge. That's birch handle, some kind of antler or bone. I can't remember what this is. Phenomenal knife. This was a gift, but I believe these are something like $150, $180 knives. And it is totally worth it. It is so cool. Made in Norway. You can see how the tang is constructed. It is phenomenal. Now, this knife came so ridiculously sharp when I got it. I immediately went to go throw it into the sheath, and I didn't have it quite lined up. And it's great form-fitting sheath. However, if you're careless about it, it will not index on its own into that sheath. And I had the blade turned and almost cut all the way through. I mean, within a few minutes of owning this thing, I almost cut all the way through this sheath. It's ridiculously sharp. It is frighteningly sharp. I actually wish that there's a little more protection for my finger. I am very careful when I'm using this knife. If I'm applying any kind of forward pressure, cutting with the nose, or trying to puncture into something, if your hand slips forward on this, you're gonna lose a finger. I know my wife was cringing when I first got this knife. An hour later, I was outside chopping up some hickory, batoning it with hickory baton and splitting hickory, and she was cringing because it's a beautiful knife, but that's what they're made for. This is phenomenal. I love it. So I think that's it for gear today. T-shirt. J Bell Wildcraft. Got a couple shirts made up. If anybody wants the chance to win one, go ahead, put a comment below and say, hey, I want a t-shirt. I have only got large and extra large in. I just ordered a few basically for myself, but I'm going to give one away. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you are, and you put in the comment, hey, I want a t-shirt, I will put all those names together and draw one out and give it to one of you. So, all right, thanks for watching, and I got to go get my hair cut and get to work, so bye.